All right, let's dive right in, shall we? We're taking a deep dive today into the world of generative AI and how to design for it.
Sounds exciting.
It is. And, it feels like everyone's talking about these AI tools like ChatGPT, DLE,
Yeah.
but we want to go a little deeper today,
Okay.
beyond, just playing around with these things
Right.
and get into like the real design thinking behind these applications.
So I think what's really interesting is that generative AI is kind of changing how we interact with computers. You know,
Oh, yeah.
it's less about clicking buttons and more about you telling the AI what you want to achieve.
So it's more like I'm describing my vision
Exactly.
and the AI is figuring out how to make it happen.
Yeah. We call that intent-based outcome specification, and it's a big reason why those old design guidelines, they
Yeah.
don't really work for generative AI.
Well, how so?
Well, those older guidelines, they're mostly about what we call discriminative AI.
Okay.
Things like spam filters or image recognition. They're basically just sorting and categorizing stuff.
So they're looking at data that already exists
Exactly.
and making decisions based on that.
Right. But generative AI, it's not just analyzing, it's actually creating new things.
Yeah.
And that's where it gets tricky for designers.
Okay, I see. So we really do need a whole new approach to design here.
We do.
Where do we even start?
Well, there are these 6 key design principles that are really helpful. And the first one sets the stage for everything else. Design for generative variability.
Oh, okay. So I actually ran into this myself the other day.
Okay.
I was trying to use one of those AI tools to design a new logo.
Yeah.
And it just gave me like a ton of different options. And at first, I was overwhelmed.
Yeah, that's generative variability.
Mhm.
You're not expecting just one right answer. You're designing for a whole range of possibilities.
At first it felt like the AI was just throwing spaghetti at the wall,
Yeah, right.
see what sticks. But then I realized that's kind of the fun part, right? It's
Sort
like this burst of creative energy.
Yeah, and the other 5 principles we'll talk about, they all kind of build on this idea, helping us design for this creative power of AI.
Okay, so design for generative variability is like the foundation. What comes next?
The next one is design for mental models. And it's all about making sure that people understand how the AI actually works.
Right. Because a lot of folks think AI is like some all-knowing magic genie.
Yeah, and it's not.
So we got to be clear about its limitations.
Exactly. We need to explain how these systems work, what they can and can't do.
Maybe give some examples, right?
Examples, tutorials, anything that can help people get a more accurate picture of the AI.
So we're not just designing interfaces, we're designing learning experiences as well.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay, so what's the next principle after that?
So the next one is designed for co-creation. And this is where things get really cool because we're talking about actually collaborating with the AI.
So it's less about giving the AI commands
Yeah.
and more about working with it as a partner.
Exactly. Empowering users to shape the process, refine outputs, and really get creative with the AI.
Like I'm imagining some of those music apps where you start with an AI-generated melody
Yes.
and then you kind of build on it from there.
Exactly. You're adding your own style, making it your own. That's a great example of co-creation.
It really is. So it's like a dance almost between the user and the AI.
I like that. It's a dance where both partners are contributing to the creative process.
This is awesome.
But of course, with all this power comes responsibility, which is what the next principle is all about.
That's design responsibly.
You
Wow.
got it. As designers, we have to make sure this technology is used ethically and for good.
Yeah.
And we can't ignore the fact that it can be used for bad as well.
Right, like any tool it can be used to build or to destroy.
Exactly. So we have to be mindful of the data, the potential for bias, the possibility of creating harmful content, and we have to design features that mitigate those risks.
So it's not just about making cool apps, it's about making apps that are good for the world.
Right. And that leads us to the next principle. Design for appropriate trust and reliance.
Ooh, interesting.
Generative AI can be very convincing, even when it's wrong.
Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in the magic of it all and forget that AI is still a tool.
Right. So we have to design interfaces that give clues about the AI's confidence level, highlight potential biases. We need to help people make informed decisions about when to trust the AI and when to double-check things.
It's about healthy skepticism. Right?
Exactly. Encouraging users to be critical thinkers. And finally, we come to the last principle. Design for imperfection.
Okay, this one seems a little counterintuitive.
I know, right? But it's actually really important. We need to be upfront about the fact that AI, especially generative AI, is imperfect. it makes mistakes.
So we're not pretending the AI is some infallible genius.
No.
We're embracing its flaws.
Exactly. And the challenge for designers is to turn those imperfections into opportunities.
So how do we highlight the flaws without making the AI seem unreliable?
We turn them into features, encourage users to see the AI as a partner in exploration.
Okay, so we've got these 6 principles, and they all kind of work together.
They do.
And now I'm thinking, do they apply differently depending on what someone's using the AI for?
You're right. That's a great point. And actually, that's something we should dive into next.
Awesome. So let's pick up this conversation in part 2.
Sounds good. You know, like those 6 principles we were talking about,
Hmm.
they can actually be used in totally different ways depending on like what someone's trying to do with generative AI.
Right, like are they trying to create something super specific, really polished,
Yeah.
or are they just messing around, exploring?
Exactly. And your research mentions these 2 different modes,
Yeah.
optimization and exploration.
Right.
And I think it'd be cool to see how those actually play out when you're designing these systems.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's start with design for imperfection,
Okay.
since we were just talking about that.
So, if your goal is optimization, you're probably going to focus on helping users smooth out those imperfections in the AI's output. Like imagine a tool where a user is editing AI-generated code,
Hmm.
fine-tuning it, to fit specific requirements.
So the AI is basically giving you a starting point, and then the user kind of takes over and makes it perfect.
Exactly. But on the other hand, if you're going for exploration, design for imperfection might actually involve showcasing those unexpected outputs, even the mistakes,
Okay.
as like jumping off points for new ideas.
That's cool. So you're using those imperfections as inspiration.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's about embracing the unexpected. And that actually makes me think about design for generative variability
Okay.
and how that might also play out differently depending on optimization or exploration.
Yeah, because even if you're optimizing, you're still going to get multiple outputs from the AI, right?
Exactly. But for optimization, you want to give users ways to filter and rank those outputs really quickly.
Okay.
Like imagine you can set specific criteria,
Yeah.
and the AI automatically shows you the best options that match.
So you're not overwhelming the user with too many choices. You're
Right.
helping them narrow it down fast.
Exactly. But with exploration, the design should encourage users to kind of like linger in that space of possibility.
I like that. Linger in that space of possibility.
Yeah. Maybe using visualization tools that highlight the differences between those outputs,
Okay.
or giving users a way to play with different parameters and see how things change in real time.
Cool. So it seems like this optimization versus exploration thing
Yeah.
is really key to understanding how to use these principles.
It is.
What about design for co-creation? Does that one even make sense for optimization?
Well, it actually is relevant for both.
Okay.
But again, it kind of looks different. For optimization, it might be a tool that lets you fine-tune parameters.
Uh-huh.
So you're going back and forth with the AI, working together to refine a result.
So you're guiding it towards a specific outcome.
Exactly. But when we switch to exploration, co-creation could mean giving users way more freedom to experiment.
Okay.
Like, what if you could take different AI outputs and, like, combine them or remix them into something totally new?
So you're kind of like an AI artist.
Yeah.
That's a really cool idea.
And that brings us back to design for mental models.
Okay.
If you want users to really co-create with AI, they need to understand what it can and can't do.
Right.
In an optimization context, maybe the interface clearly explains how tweaking certain parameters will impact the output.
So you're teaching them how to talk to the AI.
Exactly. But if the goal is exploration, then design for mental models might involve showcasing all the creative possibilities that the AI offers,
Okay.
maybe through inspiring examples or interactive tutorials.
You're showing them what's possible, inviting them to explore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But now with all this talk about giving users control and encouraging exploration,
Uh-huh.
we can't forget about design for appropriate trust and reliance.
Yeah, that one's super important,
It is.
especially because generative AI can be so convincing.
Right. Our designs need to give cues about the AI's confidence level, highlight potential biases, and encourage users to double-check things.
Yeah.
If we're talking about optimization, maybe that looks like a warning message that pops up when the AI is making a suggestion that's kind of outside its usual parameters.
So even when the AI is helping you optimize,
Yeah,
you still need to be paying attention.
you do.
Yeah.
You can't just blindly accept everything it says.
Right.
And if we're talking about exploration, maybe design for appropriate trust and reliance looks more like framing the AI's output as a starting point,
Okay.
encouraging users to dig deeper, do their own research.
It's like saying, hey, the AI gave you some cool ideas,
Yeah,
but now go out and see where they lead you.
exactly. And lastly, let's bring it back to design responsibly.
Right. We can't forget about that one.
No matter what you're using generative AI for, we need to think about the ethical implications.
The potential for bias, harmful content, all of that.
Exactly. Design responsibly means being proactive. Maybe we build bias detection tools into the software,
Okay.
implement content filters,
Uh-huh.
or even design the interface in a way that encourages users to think critically about the ethics of what they're creating.
It's like, with great power comes great responsibility. Yeah.
I like that. It really sums it up.
Yeah. So we've talked about these principles in theory,
Yeah.
but are there any real world examples that show how this optimization versus exploration thing actually plays out?
Oh, absolutely. Remember GitHub Copilot?
Yeah.
That's a great example of a tool that supports both modes. So programmers can use it to get specific code suggestions, which helps them optimize their workflow.
Okay.
But it also encourages them to learn new techniques and explore different approaches to coding.
So it's not just about being more efficient, it's about expanding your skill set.
Exactly. And another good example is Daily.
Oh yeah, the AI image generator.
It's got this feature where you can regenerate outputs, which is awesome for exploring different variations.
Mm-hmm.
But you can also use it for optimization. Quickly generate a bunch of options and then pick the one you like best.
So the same feature can serve different purposes,
Exactly.
depending on what you're trying to do. What about ChatGPT?
Oh, ChatGPT is interesting because it's mainly for text generation, but it can handle both optimization and exploration.
Okay.
So for optimization, you give it very specific instructions
Right.
to get the outcome you want. But for exploration, you can just have a conversation with it.
Yeah.
Ask it to generate different creative text formats, stories, poems, even code.
It's like you're brainstorming with a creative partner who
Oh.
can help you refine your ideas or come up with totally new ones.
And that brings us to one final, really interesting point from your research.
Okay.
The idea that as generative AI becomes more common in our lives, it's going to change not just how we design and create,
Yeah.
but how we think.
Whoa. Okay, now that's a big one.
It is. Imagine a world where we're always interacting with AI, using it to write, design, compose music, solve problems.
Right.
This kind of collaboration will inevitably change our thought processes.
So we might start thinking differently, more creatively.
Yeah, we might start seeing the world differently, approaching problems from new angles.
It's like AI will become an extension of our own minds,
Exactly.
helping us push the boundaries of what we thought was possible.
But it also raises a lot of new questions, doesn't it?
Oh, definitely. Like, what does authorship even mean when AI is part of the creative process?
Yeah, and how do we make sure these tools are being used ethically?
Those are big questions.
They are, and questions we need to keep asking as this technology keeps evolving.
This has been a fascinating deep dive so far,
Yeah.
and I can't wait to hear what you have to say in part 3. So we're back, and I'm still thinking about that idea that generative AI could actually change how we think. It's pretty mind-blowing.
It really is. I mean, imagine if AI was so integrated into our creative process that it became like an extension of our own minds.
Yeah, like we're constantly bouncing ideas off the AI, using it to break through those creative blocks, explore new ideas, maybe even challenge our own assumptions.
Exactly. And I think as we interact with AI more and more like that, it will inevitably change the way we think.
You're saying we'll start to see the world differently.
Yeah, maybe approach problems from new angles, even come up with new forms of creative expression that we haven't even thought of yet.
It's exciting and kind of scary all at the same time.
I know, right? It's like we're entering this whole new era of human creativity.
Where the lines between human and machine are getting blurry.
Exactly. And that raises some pretty big questions like, how do we even define authorship when AI is so involved in the creative process?
Right, because it's not just about giving credit.
Yeah.
It's about understanding what it means to be creative in a world where AI can create things that are so sophisticated and nuanced.
That's a good point. And then, of course, there's the whole issue of making sure generative AI is used ethically.
Yeah, we talked about the potential for bias.
Right. Misinformation, harmful content, all of that.
It's a lot to consider.
It is. Designing for generative AI isn't just about creating cool apps. It's about shaping the future of human creativity and making sure these tools are used for good.
So for someone like me, who's kind of new to this whole world of generative AI design,
Yeah.
what's the best way to get started?
Well, I think the first step is to just be curious, be willing to experiment,
Okay.
play around with different AI tools,
Mm.
see what they can do, get a feel for their strengths and
So
limitations.
just get in there and try things out.
Exactly. And as you're experimenting, think about those 6 principles we talked about.
Right. Design for generative variability, design for mental models,
Mhm.
design for co-creation,
Yeah.
design responsibly, design for appropriate trust and reliance, and design for imperfection.
All of those. Think about how you can use them to create really engaging and empowering experiences for your users.
It seems like a lot to remember.
It is, but they provide a solid framework.
Yeah.
And keep in mind that this is a field that's changing all the time.
Right.
So you got to stay up to date, keep learning, be open to new ideas.
It's almost like generative AI is this invitation to explore the unknown, to push the boundaries of what we thought was
It
possible.
is. It's a chance to redefine what it means to be creative.
I love that. So I guess the message is go out there and explore, experiment, learn, create,
Exactly.
and help shape a future where generative AI helps us all be more creative and innovative.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, this has been an amazing deep dive. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise.
Oh, it was my pleasure.
I feel like I've learned so much.
Good.
And I'm really excited to see what the future holds for generative AI.
Me too. Remember, this is a story that's still being written, and you're a part of it.
That's a great thought. Thanks again for joining us, and thanks to all of you for listening. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.